The first time I realized I was invisible, I was 11 years old. I had just won first place at my school's science fair. Months of late nights, meticulously calculating orbital rotations and building a working model of the solar system had finally paid off. The judges even gave me a special commendation for mathematical precision. I remember standing there, trophy in hand, scanning the crowd for my parents, waiting for their proud smiles, their applause, anything. They weren't there. My little brother Jake had a t-ball practice. Not a game. Just practice. I walked home alone that evening, gripping my trophy like a lifeline. When I placed it on the mantel, it sat there for a week, collecting dust, before vanishing into the basement. Probably shoved into a storage box with other things they never cared about. Meanwhile, the walls of our house were covered with Jake's participation ribbons. That was my childhood in suburban Boston. My parents, Robert and Sarah, weren't cruel. They just never really saw me. Jake, who was born when I was 8, was the golden child. It wasn't just favoritism. It was a family tradition. His C+ grades were celebrated with ice cream and proud speeches about his potential. My straight A's were met with nods and distracted murmurs of, "That's nice, honey." When I got accepted into the advanced placement program, my mother expressed concern that it might make Jake feel bad about himself. When he turned 16, Dad bought him a brand new car to boost his confidence. I was 16 when I got my first job at a local grocery store to pay for my own college fund. The day I graduated as valedictorian, my parents spent more time taking pictures of Jake playing in the stands than watching me give my speech. By the time I left for MIT on a partial scholarship, money I earned through 3 part-time jobs, I had already accepted that I was nothing more than an afterthought in my own family. And yet, like a fool, I kept hoping. Boston was a fresh start. At MIT, I was judged for my abilities, not my last name. I buried myself in software architecture, finished with honors, and received 5 job offers before graduation. And then I met Amy. She worked at a small coffee shop near my office, studying to become a teacher. For weeks, she had been leaving little notes on my coffee cups, things like, "Hope today's great," or "Good luck with your meeting." I had been so wrapped up in work that I never noticed, until the day she slipped me a note that said, "You always look so serious. I bet you have a great smile." She was right. I did. I just hadn't used it in a long time. Amy made me feel seen in a way I never had before. She listened. She cared. She laughed at my dumb jokes and supported my ambitions. Within a year, we were inseparable, spending weekends discovering hidden bookstores, cooking elaborate meals, and hiking in New Hampshire. She encouraged me to go for a big promotion at work and cried happy tears when I got it. When I proposed, she said she'd been waiting for me to ask. Our wedding was small and perfect, except for my family. They spent the entire reception discussing Jake's new job opportunity in California, passing around their phone to show off a text from him about his interview. My mother even interrupted Amy's father's speech to read it aloud. I should have seen the warning signs. Amy laughed it off, calling it sweet, how devoted they were to Jake. I wanted to believe she was right. For 3 years, our marriage was everything I ever wanted. We bought a beautiful condo in Cambridge. We traveled. We talked about starting a family. Amy decorated our home with framed photos of our adventures and planted a tiny container garden on the balcony. She would always say, "It's us against the world." Then Jake came back. Jake had failed in California. He claimed the startup culture wasn't for him and wanted to reconnect. He wrote me an email, full of regret, talking about how much he missed his big brother. Amy convinced me to give him a chance. "People change," she said. For a while, it seemed like he had. He came over for dinner, showed interest in my work, and even defended me when our parents made their usual backhanded comments. Then things started shifting. Jake started dropping by unexpectedly, always when I wasn't home. He and Amy had inside jokes. I would walk into a room, and they'd go silent. Amy's phone screen would suddenly turn off when I sat next to her. The night she announced her pregnancy, we were having dinner at home. Naturally, Jake was there. I was ecstatic. But then I looked at him. He wasn't surprised. He was smug. The truth unraveled in a single night. Amy had fallen asleep, her phone charging on the nightstand. I had never gone through her phone before. I believed in trust. But that night I did. Hundreds of messages, hotel meetups, plans for the future. And the baby? Their baby. They had planned to tell me after it was born, assuming I would be too attached to leave. The next morning I confronted her. She cried, said they hadn't meant for it to happen. He just understands me better than you ever could. The worst part, my parents told me to forgive them. Mom's exact words. Jake made a mistake, but he's going to be a father now. You need to be the bigger person. Think of the baby. I hired a divorce attorney that same day, Amy pleaded. She screamed. She blamed me for abandoning our family. Jake tried to corner me at work. I had him removed by security. They painted me as the villain. Emotionally unavailable, controlling, resentful. My parents called me jealous. Even in the divorce, Amy got a generous settlement. Because in Massachusetts, screwing your husband's brother doesn't void alimony, I blocked them all. I thought that was the end. I was wrong. A month later, my mother showed up at my office, crying about how Jake and Amy were struggling. Jake had been blacklisted from job opportunities. They needed money for rent, food, medical expenses. Your father and I have always provided for both. Our sons, she said. It's time for you to take charge. I laughed in her face. When I refused, they tried to sue me for more support. The court shut them down. The judge even reduced my alimony after seeing the evidence of harassment. Amy finally got a job. Jake took a retail position. My parents drained their retirement savings trying to help them, and still, they blamed me. My father's sister, Aunt Linda, tried one last guilt trip. When you're old and alone, family is all you have. No, self-respect is all we have, and I was finally choosing mine. I accepted a new job in Seattle. I packed up my condo and left. Jake and Amy had their baby last week. I haven't seen a picture. I never will. For the first time in my life, I'm free, and I'm never looking back. Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so and hit the notification bell to stay updated with more shocking real-life stories happening around you.